The aftermath of the rebalancing has been, I think, what a lot of traders were expecting. We really weren't sure what day it would be done, other than it has to be done today, the 21st, right? By the close of today, the new rebalancing has to be done. And the rebalancing looks like this. This is the rebalancing. So anyone wondering, does NASDAQ really take a tumble because Apple went from 12.1 to 11.5, or even Microsoft with a 3% reduction? Does that really tumble the NASDAQ? And my answer to that is no, but let's be a little bit more specific. The NASDAQ is the NASDAQ 100, right? So this is NQ futures, this is QQQ, this could be the MQ micro. But if you're concerned about specifically the drop in the weighting of, say, Microsoft, one of the ways to navigate around that concern for follow through after a reduction in weighting is don't trade the sector that stock is heavily weighted in. And Microsoft is most heavily weighted in the XLK, it along with Apple. Right? And of course, remember, Microsoft earnings are next week. If you're concerned about Google's drop in weighting, right, that's going to impact the XLC. Now, you can avoid Google, you can avoid the XLC, or you can focus on the strength in Meta. Meta's been a fantastic outperformer, generally speaking, but again, we've got to wait till after earnings. We've got to wait for this whole weightings issue to be done. So notice how Google selling off takes Meta and XLC with it. That's what I mean about knowing where the impact is based on high concentration weighting. All right, so then you ask yourself, Amazon really didn't take it on the chin, and neither did Tesla. Here's XLY. Look how XLY really pretty much closed where it did yesterday. So Friday's close is pretty much in line with Thursday's close. Why is that? This is Amazon. This is Tesla. This is Home Depot. Right? So you think about where the individual stocks are weighted, or you sort of dilute all of it by going with the NASDAQ 100. So these are tactics we can take going into the aftermath of the rebalancing. I love the idea of a potential buy on Monday in the QQQ. We start with the fresh rebalancing. I showed you the percentages. I would love to take advantage of this. All right, another way to take advantage of the pullback in tech, but benefit from the strength in financials and healthcare, is ask yourself what's going on in the S&P, the SPY, the micro mini, right? Or even the SPX, if that's your cup of tea. XLK is a number one weighted sector here, but what's been coming on really strong as of late, gang, is healthcare. Healthcare and financials. And when healthcare and financials are on a tear, and when I'm concerned about maybe some stumbling in the XLK due to Microsoft, S&P 500 stocks, right? S&P is going to be able to withstand that in a much better way than the NASDAQ 100, right? So when we think about weightings, notice how naturally it gravitates us to the indices and or sectors we can focus on, right? So that's XLF and XLV. Now the other sector is SMH. That's very much going to be a conversation where NVIDIA, right? Number one, number two weighting, that and Taiwan Semi. Yeah, you might want to cool it on NVIDIA, right? Because NVIDIA was one of the more dramatic reductions in weighting. And we know that that's going to drag the SMH lower. But if we want to dilute that effect, rather than going with NVIDIA, we can think about the SMH or another one of the relative outperformers in the SMH. So when we can navigate in and out of futures and in and out of the weighting that an individual stock has in a sector or an ETF, we can either focus on a particular stock or sector, or we could minimize the focus, right? So while NVIDIA might continue to take it on the chin, SMH might be a better choice. TXN might be a better choice, right? So this is where we want to think about how next week is going to shape up. And that's what I love about Fridays, do a lot of watch list building, and at that, relative outperformance watch list building. So by the time y'all are watching this, or by Monday, the sign up for my webinar on August 2 should be live over at simplertrading.com/opportunity. So the other thing that I want to keep an eye on, and this is going to be very much a crude oil futures energy stock, is CL, MCL. Let's see next week, and we got very close today. Let's see if next week we can't get north of that 200 propulsion, because once we pierce that, right? Once we pierce that, what we're able to do is when it does pull back again, even if it's not in an uptrend, we will have broken the threshold, the equator to the bullish hemisphere. And remember, in the meanwhile, XOP and OIH are absolutely awesome relative outperformers. Let me type those in. XOP and OIH are already leading that potential break in crude, right? So what the implications are more so for XLE and crude oil. So again, let's put it on the radar, because we're starting to see all three of those major sectors start to align with what we're seeing as a real attempt at that 200 breakout. And we're seeing a lot of these names with this 200 breakout. First was financials coming out of Q2, then was healthcare, and XLE could be the next big important sector. By the way, this all leads to continued strength potentially in the Dow. So let's go back to rebalancing shenanigans in the NASDAQ. If you're worried about the aftermath, focus on the Dow going into next week. Focus on financials. And if Dow and financials are looking good, gang, we'll talk about this in the premium video. Russell and regional banks are very much part of this overall approach. All right. So I'll see you all next week. And again, heads up, we've got the webinar on the 2nd. Hey traders, Raghee from Simpler Trading. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like and a comment below. And remember, subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll get notified of the next update. And when you're ready to join me for live trading, be sure to head on over to simplertrading.com. I'll see you in the next update.